All right, hello there, friends. It's Jimmy Maverick. How you doing out there? Thank you very much for tuning into this. We're going to talk best ball strategy and roster building. What kind of roster should you be targeting, and what kind of players? When can you get them? What's it look like on the draft board right now? This is all important for those of you that are crazy enough to be drafting right now during the fantasy football season, as it is just early March at this point. But before I do, hey, if you haven't done so already, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We're going to be doing lots of best ball content along with regular fantasy football. And so we got lots of good stuff to do for you. And like I said, thank you very much for tuning in. So let's just get right to it. So best ball is a little bit different than regular fantasy football. And because of that, the strategy and the roster building you want to do is different than what you would do in a regular fantasy football league. In fact, on my app, 16 Rounds Plus, I identify what I call best ball players. When you're in the best ball list, you'll see them as a little blue icon next to the player name with a little BB on it. These are players that I have absolutely zero interest in for regular fantasy football. They're too inconsistent. They don't get enough volume. Whatever. They're not good for regular fantasy football. But in best ball, you don't have to set your roster. It just plays the highest point scoring player in each roster spot. And there's no management of the team. You don't need to pick up players off the waiver wire. You don't need to, you can't trade with any other players. It's you have your draft, you pick your 20 players, those players, you ride them for the whole season, and you're trying to score the most points. That's what it comes down to. So again, I'm going to be talking about players that I would never, ever recommend for your regular fantasy football league. But for best ball, they're great. They serve a purpose, and it's part of the roster construction. So typically in best ball, it's usually around 20 rounds of players. And what I like to target in this build is I like to get myself 3 quarterbacks. And the reason I like to get 3 is because every time I pick 2, it invariably happens that both my quarterbacks are out on a given week during the course of the season. And if that happens, you are screwed, because that will just kill your point totals. If you miss, just a couple of weeks, like 2 weeks with no quarterbacks, you are not going to win your league. There's not going to be any chance. So I like to have the added depth of 3 quarterbacks. I like to target 5 to 6 running backs. I like to target 4 tight ends, and I'll tell you why. Because in best ball, I typically don't take any of the elite tight ends. I wait till actually after pick 10 to take my tight end, but I end up taking 4 total, because in regular football, there's tight ends that I call them the 50, 500, 5 guys. 50 catches, 500 yards, 5 touchdowns. These are guys that you absolutely cannot play in your regular fantasy football league, because they are death unless they get a touchdown. That's basically what you're gambling on, is the week you start that player, they get a touchdown. That's not any way you want to run your regular fantasy football league. But in best ball, it works because I'll have 4 tight ends working for me, and as long as one of them gets me a touchdown, that's going to be my starter, and that's what you want. So I go for 4 tight ends, and then the remainder of the roster, which would be 7 to 8 more slots, all wide receivers. And you want to have more wide receivers than running backs, because in most best ball leagues, you only start 2 running backs, but you start 3 wide receivers, plus there's the flex. So the potential that you have to start 4 wide receivers on any given week, you need more depth in the wide receiver position than you do in regular fantasy football. So let's break down the draft into groupings of each 3 rounds. So we'll have rounds 1 through 3, 4 through 6, 7 through 9. We'll talk about what players are coming off during this time period, who you should be targeting in these groupings of rounds, and building out your roster. So eventually you get a roster that looks like what I just recommended for your roster build. So obviously, first 3 rounds, they're all the superstars. These are the names you know. These are the highest scoring players on your team. You want to, again, you're going to know all these players. These are all top A-list players in the NFL. The breakdown of who is selected in the first 3 rounds right now, it looks like there's 2 quarterbacks that come off the board in the first 3 rounds. There's one tight end that comes off. That's Sam Laporta. And there's only 9 running backs taken in the first 3 rounds. And then there's 24 wide receivers coming off the board. So again, this is different than regular fantasy football. Best ball typically tends to be much more wide receiver heavy than regular fantasy football, and you need to take wide receivers early. Now, I know that the counselor, big on the robust running back strategy. Let me tell you what, you do that, you are going to kneecap your team, because although there are still some decent wide receivers in the next set of rounds 4 through 6, they're subpar. They're not going, you need to get your wide receivers early. And so what I typically recommend in the first 3 rounds, get 2 wide receivers. 2 wide receivers, and then what I like to get is an elite rushing quarterback. I want Josh Allen, I want Lamar Jackson, I want Jalen Hurts. That's typically who I target in the 3rd round. But if you are, let's say, in a situation where you pick late, like you have the 9th or 10th pick in the draft, you might also want to consider taking an elite running back, because in the first round of the draft right now, it's 8 wide receivers and 4 running backs. So your opportunity, if you're picking late, is you're either going to get yourself like the running back 3 or the running back 4, or you're going to get yourself the wide receiver 8 or 9. Okay, it's just strategically better for you to take a running back with your first pick if you're picking late. And you could still potentially get Hurts or Lamar Jackson with your early 4th round pick. It's a little bit of a gamble, but if you want to take it, I say that's a good strategy to take. So out of the first round, 2 wide receivers for sure, either an elite quarterback or an elite running back. I think either one is good, but it just kind of depends on where you're picking. By the way, also important to note, there are 2 rookies coming off in the first 3 picks, Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Neighbors. I would not recommend taking these guys so early, although I think they're great. I think they're going to go into great situations and be the wide receiver ones on whatever team selects them. But it's very expensive, and you'll see that there's still really good wide receivers that you can get later, especially in regards to the rookie wide receivers. Again, this NFL class, very, very highly rated with wide receiver talent, and it might compare to the 2014 NFL. All right, I just looked up the 2014 NFL wide receiver draft class. It included Odell Beckham Jr., Mike Evans, Sammy Watkins, Jarvis Landry, Brandon Cooks. There's just Devontae Adams. There's such amazing talent that came out of that draft class. So again, that's why you want to focus on I think this wide receiver class is going to be similar to that. So there's good wide receiver opportunities that are going to be available later. So as far as the rookies go. So now we're done with the first 3 rounds. We're moving into rounds 4 through 6. And so the big thing I want to talk about here, and why you don't need to take a running back, although I think it's great if you want to grab yourself, Bijan or Jameer or, one of those guys in the first 3 rounds. I think that's great, but only 9 running backs are coming off in the first 3 rounds. So that means you can still get a RB1 in the 4th round of your draft. And that's what I recommend you do. Instead of taking a running back, get your 2 wide receivers, get your elite quarterback, and then 4th round, you can grab yourself a near elite RB1, someone like, let's see here, Isaiah Pacheco, James Cook, Rashad White, who are some other guys? Ken Walker, love Ken Walker, right? So again, you can still get great running backs, and that's why you don't need to focus early on them. Now in rounds 4 through 6, the roster build changes, the players coming off changes, and the big change is that there are 5 quarterbacks that come off during rounds 4 through 6 and 5 tight ends. Now, the tight ends I really don't have any interest in outside of Travis Kelce and Sam Laporta. Those guys I would be interested in, but for the most part, I sacrifice the tight end position and get myself 4, maybe 1 decent tight end, and then like 3 5,505 guys to kind of fill it out. But I wouldn't recommend taking any tight ends during this early in the draft, because they're just I just don't think they're great value. Tight ends get such low volume relative to the wide receivers. You've got to continue to focus on wide receivers. And so in rounds 4 through 6, another 16 come off the board. So that means by the end of the 6th round, which is pick 72, 40 of those picks are wide receivers. You need to focus on wide receivers. It thins out so quickly. You will have opportunities to get some good rookie wide receivers later, but for right now, you do need to continue to focus on wide receivers, and that's why I recommend in rounds 4 through 6, 2 more wide receivers and a running back. So if you're going on my strategy at this point, at the end of the 6th round, you've got 4 wide receivers, 1 running back, and 1 elite quarterback. Love that. I think that's a great, solid start to your build. And again, at the end of round 6, only 19 running backs have come off the board. So there are still good running backs that you can get in rounds 7 through 9. Now in 7 through 9, there are 7 quarterbacks that come off the board, including the 3, are those the 3 rookies? Oh no, I'm sorry, that doesn't come off yet. 7 quarterbacks come off the board, 6 tight ends come off the board, another 10 wide receivers come off the board, and 13 running backs. So this is a great time to focus on running backs. Rounds 7 through 9, and I would recommend maybe getting 2 running backs in this group. And, maybe a tight end on the 9th round, but you could probably wait till the 10th round to take your tight end. Again, we're basically 100 picks in. We're at pick 108 at the end of the 9th round, and we have had 50 wide receivers come off the board. So if you end up at the end of the 9th round with 5 wide receivers, let's say 3 running backs, and your elite quarterback, you're in a great position. You've got some solid talent at the wide receiver position, which is what you need. And we still haven't even looked at rookies yet. Not a lot of rookies have come off so far. It's only a total of 6 rookies are coming off in the first 9 rounds. So in rounds 4 through 6, Rome Odunze comes off. I think that's a great option if you wanted to go with a rookie wide receiver. It seems to be a good balance between value of the rookies and you're at that point in the draft board. When you're talking at nearly 40 wide receivers coming off the board, to take someone like Rome Odunze, who's going to go in the top 10 of the NFL draft, I think that's a solid pick, especially if you can get him in like the 6th round. I think that's great. In round 7 through 9, two more wide receivers come off. Thomas Jr. from LSU and Troy Franklin, as well as the tight end Brock Bowers, who I am not big on. I mean, everybody's thinking he's going to be the next Sam Laporta. He's very good. He's very talented. He's like Kyle Pitts. That's what everyone says. He's like as talented as Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts hasn't done anything in this league since coming in, and everyone's thinking he's going to do what Sam Laporta did. I think it's very expensive to take him at this point of the draft. And again, we're just going to wait till round 10 to take our tight end. But that's kind of where we're at through the first 9 rounds. So let's move on. Rounds 10 through 12. Now, this is a big shift because now tons of rookies start coming off the board. In fact, between rounds 10 and 12, you've got 10 rookies coming off the board, including the 3 quarterbacks, the 3 elite quarterbacks that are probably going to go 1, 2, 3 in the NFL draft, as well as 4 more wide receiver rookies and 3 running back rookies. And this is what I want to point out. It has never been easier to get a rookie running back than this year in the NFL draft. And so at this point, again, we're talking 5 wide receivers, 3 running backs, and my quarterback. Where do I want to focus? Well, I absolutely want to get my tight end. Now, the tight ends available at this point in the draft are pretty good. I mean, they're not, these are solid entries for your tight end position. Dallas Goedert, Cole Kmet, let's see, or who else? Dalton Schultz. Those 3 right there. I'd love to have any one of those 3 as my tight end 1. That's a solid choice. You're basically the last person in the draft to take a tight end, and you've sacrificed that position, but have you really? Those are 3 really decent, solid options for your NFL draft. So that's why I'm like 10th round, take your tight end. 11th round, you want to get your QB2. Now, we've taken ourselves an elite rushing quarterback. We want to back him up with a solid pocket passing quarterback, and the quarterbacks available on this round are guys like Jared Goff, who I love. Jaden Daniels, the rookie, comes off. Let's see who else comes off. Matthew Stafford, another great choice. Kirk Cousins, coming back from an injury, but very valuable for fantasy. Drake May, another rookie. So there are good options. Oh, I'm sorry. Also, Caleb Williams. There's Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence isn't that great. But if I can get myself Goff or Stafford as my QB2, I think that's rock solid, man. That's a great backup to your QB1 on talented, offensive-minded offenses. I guess that's the best way to do it. But offensive-minded head coaches and dynamic offenses. That's who I want at this point for my QB2. And then in the 12th round, grab one of these rookie running backs, man. Jonathan Brooks, Trey Benson, Blake Corum, they're all coming off at around this point. Great value to take them here, and that would be your 4th running back. So at the end of 12 rounds, you've got yourself 5 wide receivers, 4 running backs, 2 quarterbacks, and your tight end. You're in great shape. Let's move on. Rounds 13 through 15. Again, rookies continue to come off at a very high rate. 11 rookies come off between round 13 and round 15. And the breakdown right now, we've got 4 rookie wide receivers, 6 rookie running backs. Again, great time to pick up another rookie running back, as well as 1 tight end, Jatavion Sanders. Again, not really interested in the rookie tight ends. But overall, you've got 4 more quarterbacks coming off in rounds 13 through 15, 11 running backs coming off, 14 wide receivers, and 7 tight ends. So in rounds 13 through 15, you want to build out your tight end. This is a great time to get these tight end 2s. Again, the 50, 505 guys that we're talking about. Guys like Pat Freiermuth, Michael Mayer of Las Vegas. Let's see here. Who else? Darren Waller, who might retrade. I just mentioned his name. Let's see here. Cade Otton. I love Cade Otton. The guy never leaves the field. Isaiah Likely, back up to Mark Andrews on a team that likes to utilize the tight end. Jatavion Sanders, the rookie, we talked about him. Juwan Johnson. Get 2 of these guys. You'll be in great shape for the rest of this draft. And with the other position, I would grab either I'd grab one of these rookie wide receivers or maybe another rookie running back. I would probably prefer to go wide receiver at this route. We've only taken 5 at this point. And again, these wide receivers that are coming off in rounds 13 through 15, these are day 2 wide receivers. So they're going to have draft capital. They're going to go into situations where they're going to be utilized. These are guys like Roman Wilson, Xavier Legette, Malachi Corley, Jalen Polk. Again, I don't know a whole lot about these players, but when you're looking at where they're going in the draft, these guys are going to have draft capital. They're going to be utilized, and they could end up being someone like a Tank Dell, someone like that for your team this year. So I take advantage of it. So now at the end of the 15th round, we've got ourselves 2 quarterbacks. We've got 3 tight ends. We've got 4 running backs, and we've got probably 6 wide receivers. That's probably the makeup I want to have, but you might have 1 more running back, 1 less wide receiver, right in that range. That's a great solid build. And then so now just closing it out, round 16 through 19, we've got another 6 quarterbacks coming off the board, 11 running backs, 13 wide receivers, and 6 tight ends. So you want to get yourself 1 more quarterback and 1 more tight end. And so this is a great time to get your QB3. And the QB3s I'm most interested in are Derek Carr and Russell Wilson. Those are the 2 guys I most want to have as my QB3 on this team. But other quarterbacks coming off, Daniel Jones, who could have a bounce back year, Will Levis, guy I'm not super in on, but some people are. Some people think there could be a year 2 jump. Same with Bryce Young is in this range. Not real interested in him either. Again, if I get out of round 16 to 19 with either Russell Wilson or Derek Carr, I think I'm going to be very happy there. You can also look to grab 1 more tight end in this range. Again, the tight ends, Tyler Conklin, great choice. Chigakonkwo, Tucker Kraft, Hunter Henry, another fantastic player for the tight end position for best ball. Again, I would never, ever want to have to start Hunter Henry or one of these guys in my regular fantasy football league, but in best ball, it's great. Best ball, they're great. So grab one of those guys, and then again, one more running back or wide receiver with that third pick. Again, you got rookie. We talked about the rookie wide receivers here. Let's see here. We've got, I'm sorry, we didn't. These are guys that are possibly day 2, but they could probably be day 3. Not quite as valuable. Round 13 through 15, one more quarterback, one more tight end, and then, either a running back or a wide receiver, depending on who's available. And then to close out round 20, it's such the bottom of the barrel. You're scraping for anything down there. Just take the best available player and put them on your team, probably a running back or a wide receiver. There's usually players that are just forgotten or left at the very end of the draft. Grab one of them. You're not expecting much. It's a 20th round pick, but that's how you finish out your build. And so again, at the end, 3 quarterbacks, 4 tight ends, 5 or 6 running backs, 7 or 8 wide receivers. You're in great shape. You got upside. You got the value when you needed it. And you got the upside with the rookies. That should really help. Rookies are always very valuable towards the end of the season, especially those rookie wide receivers. So, that's how I'm kind of approaching fantasy football this season. But I want to hear from you. What do you guys think about this strategy? What do you think? What kind of players are you wanting to target? When do you want to target them? I think that's all important information. So leave a comment down below. Again, thank you for sticking it out this far. Give me a thumbs up if you like the video. And anyway, thanks so much for watching. I appreciate it. Have yourself a great day.